As always, we're going to import our VM. If you have already imported, that's perfect. That's great. You're ahead of the curve. But as always, let's just go through the drill. File, import the appliance, navigate through the file system to where you can find the downloaded OVA file. Please be advised that some of these, I've had to restart these, and I've had to restart classes because things have crashed horribly. Hopefully we will not have that issue today. Okay, but that's not a Cisco issue, that's my technology issue. I don't understand why my laptop is crashing. I think I overheated it. I hope that's what it was. Anyway, there shouldn't be any need to change any of these settings before importing. You can simply click on the import button and it should come in properly. Of course, we want to ensure that we have Kali running as well. Once you have K3 imported, you're going to want to start that VM. Before we start, I don't know if any of you caught it, but I failed to do what I always want to do. A sanity check on the settings. Not really that big of an issue because really this one's a much more modern version of Linux. This time they used Ubuntu. It's an older version of Ubuntu, but it's not a Red Hat derivative. It is a Debian derivative, something we are more comfortable with. It also uses a SATA controller, and the network setup should export properly. We don't need adapters 2, 3, or 4. Adapter 1 should already be configured for our host-only network with promiscuous mode set to allow all. So we shouldn't have any issues. We should be able to start up our VM without problem. Getting some indicators. OpenBSD and MySQL are installed. But as always, when we take a look, we really have no clues once it's up and running. There's no username, there's no password, so we're going to have to, unlike what we saw with Metasploitable, we're going to have to attack this using Kali. I was just bringing up the chat window in case anybody wished to type in. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to use them. That's what it's there for. If I don't see your question, please do not hesitate to unmute your microphone and ask directly. As always, we are going to start by attacking or scanning our network. As always, we need to verify our IP address. It's quite large font, so I'm going to scale it back a little bit. I'm not going to make that 18. I'm going to make that, I think, 16 font. I want to still have you see it easily, but I don't want to waste real estate on unnecessarily large font. So let us begin our attack. We know the network address. This is our Kali IP, but our network is 192.168.56.0. It can't really hurt for us to keep track of those assets. So I'm going to go up here, launch a text editor, and start recording this information. Double click, right click, copy, tab over and paste my IP address. I can also double click and copy and paste. So when I do an nmap, yes,
I do have a question. When will you check the Kioptrix 2? Or should I start the third one right now?
we're not going to have a competency on Kioptrix 2. I don't know if I mentioned this. I thought I did, but maybe you came in a little after, which is fine, by the way. I understand the technical issues. But long story short, put that off so I don't use unnecessarily large bandwidth. Long story short, um, Kioptrix 3, I think, is a better competency. So I don't think there's going to be K1 and K2 competencies. So you can close those down or exit out of those terminals if you wish.
Okay, thank you.
But Saraf, it's a very good question. So let me remind you of this. If you have a bunch of stuff on one desktop, if you take a look at my display, you can click up here, switch to Workplace 2. That'll give you a completely separate desktop to work with. If you're ever unsure, and you can make these bigger, you can right click, play with the properties, play with the settings, add extra workplaces. I can give myself 3 or 4 workplaces, click on close. So I've got 1, 2, 3, or 4 workplaces. So you can give yourself extra real estate to work with if you are unsure. It's a great question. Thank you for it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Workplace 1 and scan my network. So what I did was double click, copy, and with the wheel button, paste it. A little too much information, 0/24, and out. That's why we use tab and map, because typos will get you every time. We don't get much, all right? As always, excuse me, as always, we must understand our environment. 56.1 is going to be our gateway address. 56.100 is going to be our DHCP server. The last address returned is always going to be the scanning origins. Okay, nmap scanned from this one. It's the last one in the list. It's 149, and it matches what we saw earlier. So that makes sense, which means this here is the unknown address. So let's focus our attack on that. So we're going to assume that this is our K3 server, and we will use that going forward. Okay? As always, we want to do a detailed scan of this IP address. Double click and use the middle button or press on the wheel to paste it, and it will do a detailed scan. And again, we don't really get much. We could do a full port scan, but I'm trying to curate this as much as possible to keep the flow going in a reasonable manner. Okay. When we look at this, it has OpenSSH running. That's fine. And it also has Apache. It gives us a little bit of information about Linux, but not a lot. We get more information up here that it is dead or Ubuntu. Okay. We take a look at our environment over here. We actually see that it's Ubuntu 8.04.3 LTS. Please keep in mind that this is simply the contents of a text file. It isn't always reliable. You can put anything you want in that message of the day text file. So keep those variations in mind. Now, if you take a look at the supporting Word document that I gave you for this lesson, right here, one of the important things to keep in mind is that we're going to be doing this kind of attack as always, but it is presented in a context. If you take a look at the top of page 2, it mentions that you need to enable a special setting. Okay? We need to tell the attack machine where to find Kioptrix3.com. This is one of the reasons this is because we have to tell the environment special instructions. And the reason I like it is because this is really representative of what you can expect to happen in the real world. If you are given a VM to attack, you may have to set up your network or your environment to accommodate that attack. It's very real world, and I quite like it quite a bit. So if we're going to do what we're saying here, and by the way, I've done this in the video that supports this presentation as well, but we need to modify a host file as to where we can find this VM. Okay? And it's done something like this. There's a couple of different ways to do it. We've used Nano in the past. We're going to continue to use command line processes, even though we do from time to time use something like Notepad. We're going to again do everything from the command line. So I am going to type in nano /etc/HOSTS. Okay? etc the host file, and it tells the operating system, in this case Kali, where to find machines based on domain names, what IP to use. If we do not make this edit, you're going to end up attacking a real website on the internet. We have to tell Kali to don't go online. We have to tell Kali to attack something on our host-only network. We do that by modifying this file. Again, how did I get here? I typed in nano space /etc/HOSTS. And it brings up this. Just do that for now so you can see what I'm doing. So what we want to go and do is add a new line. We do not have to worry about IPv6. We are simply using IPv4 or classic IP addressing, and we need to tell Kali where to find Kioptrix3.com. You must add your IP address to your etc host files. My IP address for K3 is that. Do not add my IP address. Please add your own IP address. Unless, and this is possible, this sometimes happens, unless your IP for your version is exactly the same as mine. This does happen. Don't let it freak you out if it happens. If everybody has gotten the same IP, that's fine. By way of question, does anybody else have 192.168.56.172 as the IP address of their K3 server? Please respond in the chat. I'm not getting a lot of yeses, so that means everybody has a unique IP. That's good. That's perfect. That's what I want to see. So make sure that your IP, your host file, matches what you have discovered in your scan. My scan showed me that my K3 server was on IP address 172, and I reflect that here. You must configure yours accordingly. And if you want, you can go over here and type in Kioptrix3. It doesn't matter. We don't really use that. I kind of do it in the video, but we really focus on the .com domain, so that's what we're going to do. Okay? Do we have to do this for our attack? I don't think so. I think I've done this attack without doing that configuration, but I wanted you to be aware of sometimes when you have to do a pen test in your careers going forward, you have to make changes to your environment. This is, yet again, a reason why every time we start a new attack, we should start with a fresh version of Kali. That is not possible with what we do here at the college, but I can work around that. We never really need to do that here. But it is something going forward that I want you to keep in mind in your careers. Okay? Now that I've done this, Control O to save my file and Control X. There should not be any issues with permissions because we are again logged in as root. Again, how did I do that? I used nano to modify the host files. I added a new line to my host files above the IPv6 addressing. I specified the IP address based on my network scan, and I told it to resolve Kioptrix3.com to that IP address. Once I had it, Control O to write out, and then Control X to exit. Control O, what file? Hosts. Control X to give me back my directory. Are there any questions? If there are no questions, that's great. If you have questions, please do not hesitate to enter them. Now, we want to start our scans. I'm going to run I've already done my Nmap scans, so I'm going to dirb http:// and because I have a domain name now, I can scan Kioptrix3.com. And I'm going to want to see this when you do your competency. I'm going to want to see that you have this set up properly. As always, it's going to go through, and right away, we see some interesting results. Apparently, phpMyAdmin is installed. We see that as it scrolls by. Of course, we're going to have to follow up with that. Worth investigating. Okay? So that was the scan for dirb. Let's do a Nikto scan next. And again, we can use the domain name that we specified in our host file. We know we've done it properly. I'll show you that in a sec because it's scrolling up. We know we configured our host file properly right here. It said Kioptrix3.com has resolved to this internal host-only IP address, and of course the port is correct as well. So that's an indicator that our host file has been configured properly. It tells us that there is a website running on this machine, but most importantly, it tells me that phpMyAdmin is interesting. So let's take a look. Let us launch our browser. I don't have my browser on my quick launch, but I really want that, so I'm going to add it right there. Create a launcher. Don't worry about it if you don't need to do that, but you can drag and drop from the start menu, place it on your quick launch area, but you have to confirm the action. So I'm going to launch a browser. I am going to navigate to that site. Again, because I have given it a proper entry in my hosts file, I can simply go to Kioptrix3.com and start our attack right here. And I think this is why they want us to configure it. Because if we were to further our attack using this CMS, this content management system right here, if we were to use that, look at that, unstable. Yeah, no doubt. We're going to attack this, but I have a feeling that because we are using this application in our attack, that's really why they want us to configure it, because it redirects everything back to Kioptrix3.com. I really think that's the reason for it. Our attack doesn't go in that path, but nevertheless, the instructions when we got the VM was to add an entry in our host file. We should really do that. We should know how to respond to those kinds of requests. Okay. First thing, we have this thing called Lotus CMS. I have no idea what that is. Let's see if there's anything about Lotus right away. Because we set this up as part of Kali, the first result that we see is Lotus CMS exploit. You know I'm going to check that out. A Lotus eval remote command execution exploit for Lotus CMS 3.0. Well, it's worth trying. Let's check it out. When I click on that, Rapid7 very nicely tells me about this exploit, and it also right away gives me the Metasploit framework code for me to try. Awesome. So of course, that is what we are going to do. We're going to see if we can't realize this exploit. Just like that. Here's my scan results. As always, I'm going to start naming my tabs, opening a new tab, and this is going to be my MSF attack on Lotus CMS. If that fits, perfect. In this second tab, and again, this is just, some of you really struggle with finding your content. I think a combination of desktops and naming your tabs in your terminal will really help you. And I'm going to encourage you to do that. I am going to do that in my presentations as much as possible. Okay. So first thing we need to do is start up the MSF console. I should have used tab to encourage you. I did not. Are there any questions? And please don't say a whole bunch of no's. If you have any questions, please type them in going forward. You can ignore the ASCII art. As always, it is just there because it's there. We don't need to worry about that. And over here, it tells us what to do. In this case, I will use my tab. I am going to use the exploit multi HTTP, and it is LCMS. And as soon as I hit the tab, it finds the PHP remote execution exploit for the Lotus CMS content management system. When I hit that, we can go through and run it. So we show options. We also have a target value as well. The targets are, don't really need to worry about that. Set target to the target ID. That should be okay. What we need to do for us, and actually now I'm looking at it, that really doesn't help us. This information here doesn't help us very much. So I'm going to refer back to the contents that I have in the Word document that you can see in Learn, which is this information here. We need to set a payload, we need to set a remote host, and we need to set, when we set a payload, we need to set a local host value. We also need to set a universal resource indicator or URI value. I can't remember what the I is. It used to be URL, but it's universal resource. I can't remember what the I stands for. Anyway, we need to tell the system that this is running and the document root. If this Lotus CMS was a subdirectory, we would specify it here. So let's see what that looks like. So, show options. We need to set, it says proxies are set to no. We don't have to set a proxy. Great. It says, so it's not required. An R host is required, a port is required, and a URI is required. The URI is wrong. We're going to have to change that. So let's go through. And we also want to set a payload. Okay? So let's go through and do that. First, set our hosts to the IP address for our K3 server. Control C, coming over here, right click, and paste. Perfect. Set URI to the document root. So options. Right, everything that's required here is set. Let's set a payload. The payload we're going to use is generic /shell _ reverse TCP. I got to the E in reverse. I hit the tab and it auto-completed for me. When I do show options now, it also shows that the payload has a required setting as well. All the settings for the exploit that are required are set. We don't need a proxy. We don't have a proxy. Not a problem. We do have an R host. We do have a URI, and we do have a port. They are all set, and they should be correct. There is a required L host setting for our payload. We should set that now. So we're going to set L host to the IP address of Cali, right here. Highlight that, right click, copy, and paste it right here. So options one more time. Our local host is set, perfect. Our payload is set, perfect. Our remote host is set, and our remote URI and port are both set. Very good. At this time, we can run the export. After a while, after a very short while this time, it says it has started a shell. Awesome. As always, who am I? Oh, we're at www data. Damn it, it wasn't a root exploit. Oh, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to have to figure that out. Now, as always, not as always, I should say, not as always. What I like doing at this point, we have made reference to it before. I'm going to do it again. This shell sucks. All right, if I do an ls, it gives me a directory. I'm going to try and do some stuff like find some stuff. I can do the find command, and by the way, you're veering away from what is in the Word document, and that's fine. We're going to look for config stuff. So I'm going to start looking here for files that have the name config in the file name. I'm going to search through for anything that has the name config. That's the command I typed in. The next command I'm going to type in is grep-r. I think that's the command I use, but we'll play with that going forward and see. Okay. I'm also going to look for MySQL connection stuff as well. I know phpMyAdmin is available to run remotely. I'm going to see if I can't figure out how to take advantage of that. I found something called gallery and gconfig. There's also a data config file, and there's some kind of text file as well. Maybe we'll look at those. Okay? But before I do that, I want to look for the string MySQL connect. So I'm going to grep-r MySQL underscore connect star and see if that works. And it did. Brilliant. Again, under gallery, this gconfig has some connection information. This gallery gconfig file was returned as well. I'm going to focus my attack on that. Again, there's an install.back, there's a gfunctions, there's a globals somewhere else in this install.back, but really this gallery directory and the gconfig.php file, I'm going to focus on that. That looks interesting to me. If there are no questions, I'm going to keep moving forward. These here allow me to focus on what I'm looking for by looking for config files and specifically looking for MySQL underscore connect information. We are looking for clues. Okay? So I'm going to go back to my terminal and change into the gallery directory and do an ls. And right away we see a problem. I said gallery, that really didn't work. Now I can do an ls of gallery and see what that'll give me, and that kind of worked. That's really cramping my style. So what I am going to do is that Python shell trick we did before, where you type in Python -c, and I've got this memorized, and there's value in you memorizing this as well. -c, single tick, import, pty, semicolon, pty.spawn, open bracket, open double quotes, bin, bash, closing double quotes, closing bracket, closing single quote, just like that. It is all one line. I'm going to have to do this now. Sorry. But that's the attack that I am using next. Tick, import pty, or import the pty module, and then pty.spawn, open bracket, open double quotes, because we've already used a single quote, bin / bash, closing double quotes, brackets, closing single quotes, and my prompt should be a lot better. Much, much nicer. Okay. Who am I? I'm still www.data cd gallery, and now it's working. And I can see. Now I'm going to have to make this a little bit bigger now. Okay. And now I can see everything, including gconfig.php. Let's take a look at the contents of gconfig.php. Okay? And right away, I need to apologize, obviously, for this. Welcome to the wonderful world of hacking. It is full of 14-year-old idiots. Okay? We've got the database connection right here. It's on localhost. The database is called Gallery. The username is root, which right away should make every one of you go, oh my God, what an idiot. And the password is fucky, which is new, but still, frustratingly insulting. But this is good. We can use this information to try and connect back in our browser to the phpMyAdmin interface. So I'm going to open up a third tab and go to kioptrix3.com/phpMyAdmin. Just like that, again, hoping it will resolve locally. We know the username and password. The username is root. And the password we can copy and paste right here. And we can try logging in. And right away, we are in to our database as root, which is, of course, absurd. But here we are. There are no questions. I'm going to move forward again. And this is pretty straightforward stuff. We've done this.
Sorry, Stephen, for interrupting you.
Yes, that's quite all right.
Yeah. When you search for find name and config,
Yes.
and after that you run grep MySQL, like when you try to make a connection with the SQL, it doesn't work. It doesn't
Okay.
show anything for me.
Did you do an uppercase R?
Yeah.
And you typed in mysql_connect?
Yes. Space
You
star.
had a star at the end?
Yes.
And it didn't work.
No.
Okay, we'll take a look at that later on, but you need to make sure that you're in the correct directory.
Okay.
I was in the directory that is the document root for this. And as you can see right here, they even call it Kioptrix3.com, but that's the document root for this web application. You need to be in that directory and then that command should work. If not, we'll take a look at it later. It doesn't really matter. You can still move forward because we're trying to take a look at this information. To answer your question better, and I'm not sure who that was, but that's fine. If that didn't work, that's okay because we can still do cat in the directory that we are in. We can cat gallery /gconfig.php and we will still get the information we are looking for. Okay?
No, Stephen, I'm saying just scroll somewhat upwards. Like when you when we check, like we are in the root and
Yep.
we run the ls to see what all directories we have.
Yep.
After that you search for the config, then
Yep.
you try to connect with the MySQL, but it
No, I
doesn't
didn't.
work. So
I did not connect with MySQL Server.
okay, so
This grep here is not MySQL. It's the grep
okay.
command. The grep allows you to search for strings in files. That's what grep is. And it uses regex and a bunch of other things. But what grep does is it looks. Go ahead.
So if it doesn't work, so how should I proceed further?
You and I are going to take that offline, and we will look at it tomorrow in our 1-hour class. Okay?
Okay, that's fine.
I'm sorry I don't have a better answer, but what's going to happen is you're going to have to share your desktop with me, and I'm not sure that this is going to work the way I expect it to. So we'll take a look at that after I'm done this. And I understand that it's not working for you, but that's fine. We'll come back to it. You can still move on because you can still see the results right here.
Okay, I'll try. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And thank you for asking. I do appreciate people stepping up and asking. That way I know that people are actually awake and listening to me and you haven't all fallen asleep on your keyboards. So we have successfully logged in to PHP MyAdmin as root. Okay. We know the database is called gallery. Let's take a look at that. And we know the tables are right here. Right away, we see something called dev accounts. We can look at the gallerific users, see the data here. But chances are those are users of the application, and really it's only, that's weird. Anyway, that's really just users of the application. This looks more interesting to me. This one here, the dev accounts, when we browse those, we actually see there are two users, dreg and lone ferret. We're interested in those because those are more likely to represent outside of the application access. As we've seen in the past, people can be lazy, very, very lazy. Because of that, let's make sure I haven't missed anything. I have not missed anything. Because of that, I want to see if these passwords might be reused. Unfortunately, They are encrypted passwords, but they look similar. They kind of look like those MD5 encrypted hashes we saw before. And we can go through the same process. We can copy those username passwords, save them as a text file, run the MD or run John the Ripper with the format is equal to MD5 or raw MD5 argument. And that will probably work. But I want to show you something different. If I had a whole list and I wanted to try and crack them, that's exactly what I would do. However, we've only got two. As I show in the video, and as I show at the top of page 6 of the handout, we don't have to. When we only got a couple, we don't have to go through all of that. We can open up yet a fourth tab and search for MD5 cracking. When we search for that, MD5 online cracker, I can't find it now. Well, there it is right there. MD5online.org. This is the one I like, where you can do an MD5 decryption. All right, MD5 online is fine, but the one we are most interested in is the MD5 online decryption. And maybe that's what I should have searched for. You know what, let's search for that instead. Not cracker, but decrypt. MD5 online decrypt. That should give us a better result. Because when we look at this, it kind of looks like an MD5 hash. So let's see if we can't crack that. I like this site a lot, md5online.org. And what it allows us to do is to take our hashes, copy the hash, double-click, right-click, copy, and then go to the md5online.org and the decrypting page and paste that and see if it can decrypt it. And it does. So it has found that for dereg, the password that we discovered was master, very weirdly spelt. Okay? That's interesting. We're not going to focus on dereg's account too much. We're going to focus on the other one. Nevertheless, we're going to try these. Lone ferret has a hash of this. If we take a look at Lone Ferret's information, we get Star Wars. Right away, love this guy. They have as their password Star Wars. So, by taking a look at these hashes, we have cracked those. Now, we could have, again, we can use John the Ripper. We can use a number of different tools. But because we only have two, it's almost as easy to just check them online. Okay? And that's what we did. We found that that hash gave us that string. Now we want to see if they are as lazy as we think they are. Okay? I'm back in my terminal, understanding that I have this information right here. Also understanding that in my initial scan, way back, which was almost 40 minutes ago, SSH is running. And it is OpenSSH for Ubuntu. Let's see if we can't take advantage of that. I am going to open a new tab, and I'm going to SSH, and it's dereg at Kioptrix3.com. Because again, we set it up. We could use the IP address, no question. Enter. And because this is the first time I am connecting, it says, do you want to use this publicly available fingerprint key. Yes, I want to. So it's added to my known hosts with the key, and it wants dreg's password. It's not a problem. We've got this right here, and it is MAST, MAST3R. Right-click, copy, go over here, right-click, paste. Doesn't show, but of course it doesn't. It's command line. The test is the enter, and look at that. Dreg is lazy and uses the same password in multiple cases, which is why you never want to do that, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? So dreg is compromised. ls, nothing really here. ls-al, really nothing here. Let's move on and try lone ferret. Dreg at Kioptrix 3, that's fine. You know what? I don't even really need to relabel that because it tells me where it is there in the tab. I lost somebody. Hopefully they come back. So I am going to now try SSH as lone ferret at Kioptrix3.com. Because we've already added Kioptrix3.com's signature to the local list of acceptable sites, it doesn't go through that again. This time it wants to know the password. I lost Sarah. Oh well. That's my train of thought. Because I know his password, I can just type in star words just like that. And again, it lets me in. I could also have copy and pasted from over here. So at this point, I hope Sarah comes back because this is where things get a little dicey. Now it's going to get interesting. Up to this point, it's been pretty straightforward stuff we've seen up to this point. Now things are going to go a little sideways. Okay? When we do an ls of lone ferret's directory, we see we've got this checksec.sh file owned by root. We can't really do anything with that other than taking a look at it. All right, and it's a script. Interesting. It's got some weird display information here. Well, it's not really much help to me. Okay. We have this company policy .readme file. Let's take a look at that. Hello, new employee. It is the company policy here to use our newly installed software for editing, creating, and viewing files. So use the command sudo ht. Failure to do so will result in your immediate termination. I don't know who DG is, but I'm pretty sure it's Greg that we saw before. DREG, I don't know. Anyway, CEO, whatever. So if we are going to do anything, first off, we get indications that sudo is in place. That's awesome. Let's see if we can sudo su dash. It wants the password for lone ferret. We know what that is, Star Wars. Typing it in. Sorry, user lone ferret is not allowed to execute the su command as root. Okay, well maybe lone ferret should just try the ht command first, because that's what's available to me. So sudo ht. Because I already entered my password, I don't need to hit it again. We get this weird error here. And this is on purpose. This is going back to my initial comment when we first started on this, that people will try foolish things to do security through obscurity. Specifically that a regular terminal connection will not work. So, a junior hacker, an unexperienced hacker will go, well, this isn't working. What else can I do? But in reality, what has happened is that you are using the wrong terminal. So what you need to do is go into this, go into the system, and scroll down under system and use xutterm. You can also try xfce term, but I don't think that's going to give us what we want. So I'm going to try the XU term again. System, scroll down, and use XU term. It's for the Unicode environment. This is going to be very difficult for you to see. Long and the short of it is that they're trying to use something to prevent people from doing exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to use the correct terminal. The video I shared in Learn zooms in and shows this much better. Regardless, we're just going to move forward now that I've realized that this isn't working the way I want it to. I can't share individual applications inside. Did somebody have a question? I thought I heard somebody's mic go hot. That's fine. So what we need to do is to recreate the connection here inside of this terminal. So again, it is SSH lone ferret at Kioptrix3.com. That looks horrible. And the password is again Star Wars, just like that. Okay. Inside of this shell, so inside this shell, when we try the sudo ht command, it allows me to view this text editor. There is file open across the top here. There are also function keys along the bottom. So what we have here is a tool, a text editor that we can, in theory, operate as root. See, the thing is that sudo is configured via a text file. That text file is called sudoers. And if you're following along, I don't even know where I am. You take a look at page 7 of the handout. Hope that was who that was that just came back or just joined us. Welcome back, whoever you were. But this is where it gets fun. The terminal that we tried using didn't work, so we had to use a different terminal. Is found under System, and it is called XU term. Unfortunately, I can't zoom in on it, so you're going to have to take a look at the Word documentation. It is explained in this document in great detail, and this is what it looks like. Okay. Obviously, there is a way of expanding it. I just haven't figured out how to do it on this environment, but never mind. What we need to do is to open up our sudoers file. I'm at the top of page 8 of the handout at this point, and it walks us through the process. Right here, it says 3 and open. What that is function F3, which allows me to open a file. Again, how did I do that? In this XU terminal, or whatever it's called, I hit the F3 key, and it allowed me to open it up. Okay? What you need to type in is etc /sudoers, sudoers. That lists the configuration for your sudo users. And when we open up that file, it shows us on the line for lone ferret, right here, what lone ferret can do. And right here, we see the text editor that we are using right now. See, the problem is that because it is a text editor that we can run as root, we can, in theory, go into this file and modify it. And it is critically important that we do it exactly right, because if you mess this up, you cannot undo it. You must type in exactly what I have in this Word document. You must specifically add a comma, space, and then /bin bin/sh. We are basically telling the sudoers file to allow us to execute sh, to launch our own shell. Okay? So again, what did I do? I went to the end of the line, set up for me as I'm logged in. Again, I'm logged in as Lone Ferret, so I need to go to the end of that line, and it's all cursor-based, comma, space, /bin/sh. Figure out how I launched that other one. Must have been a screen somewhere else, but regardless. Anyway, so I have this shell, this sudoers file modified in the shell that supports the weird character set that they've set up. Again, to prevent hackers from doing exactly this. Unfortunately, they didn't allow that hackers would have other terminals that they could try. Okay? At this point, you want to save. And as you can see down here, there's little asterisks showing that their file has been modified, and F2 will save our work. I hit Control. I don't hit Control, sorry. I hit F2. Saves my work. Again, if I modify it, F2 saves my work. I modify it, F2 saves my work. And now I can hit F10 to exit. And we have modified our sudoers file. So now I type in sudo bin sh. Just like the prompt changes from a string to a hash, and right away we know that means that we are likely to have become root. UMI verifies it. Now, we made the change over here, sudo bin bash, bin sh. Because it's checking, it has allowed me to be root everywhere. And that's it. That is the attack. I like this attack again because it has some nebulous bit of software that is in place that is open to a vulnerability that we took advantage of. We were able to create a remote shell based on that information. With that remote shell, we were able to discover database connection information. With that connection information, we were able to find username, password combinations. The passwords were encrypted, but we were able to decrypt those passwords. Because people are lazy and they reuse those passwords, and we were able to crack those passwords, we were able to log in to that machine over SSH. Because they poorly configured their pseudo environment, we were able to elevate ourselves to root. Any questions? If you have a question, don't hesitate to type it in. I'm going to make one more comment before I wrap up this presentation, and hopefully you guys can start working through, because there will be a competency on this, so you can go through and work on this yourself. There is a video in Learn that you can follow. I will make this video available in Learn as well, but that's not going to happen for several hours. These videos appear in our accounts in Webex, and it takes a while for it to appear. I will download it, I will modify it, add any special emphasis I want. I may very well zoom in on that XU term session that we have running just to make it a little bit more visible for you in the future. But otherwise, I make very little modifications to these things. That takes about an hour itself, and then I will post a link in YouTube back in this module. Let me end on this note, though. One glaring problem with this activity is that I have modified a file. This is fine if you're trying to do simple pen testing, looking for vulnerabilities. You've downloaded an OVA file. You're making changes to the environment. In your environment, that's not a problem. However, if this is a red team activity where you are trying to attack somebody's environment and you don't want any indication of your presentation, this is not ideal. This is less than ideal, actually. So while it is fine for the environment that we have done, please keep in mind that if you are actually involved in a red team activity where you're trying to secretly attack with permission, because we always seek permission, if you are trying to attack and not leave any trace of your behavior, this attack is less than ideal. Sometimes it's necessary, but it is less than ideal. If there are no more questions,